Welcome to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts show. This is the place that covers all phases and aspects of the divorce journey so that you can avoid common, costly mistakes and have a smarter, saner, savvier divorce. So I'd like to please introduce our wonderful host, Lisa Decker, a certified divorce financial analyst, a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce, and CEO and founder of Divorce Money Matters, and the sponsor of this particular show, Divorce Town USA. So Lisa, what can we look forward to today?
Today we have a great guest, and Mike Mastracci is going to talk about stop fighting over the kids. What a wonderful topic, right? Who doesn't want to stop fighting over the kids? So we're going to have fun with this today. Believe it or not, with that topic. Mike's a lot of fun.
He is a lot of fun. And we're going to do things just a little bit differently today. Mike was actually called into court on an emergency this afternoon. So he kindly agreed to tape his segment of the show. And for those of you who are with us live, please go ahead and stay all the way until the end of the show. You'll still have a chance to ask your questions, and Mike will explain how and when he'll be able to answer those for you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and share this fantastic interview.
Enjoy.
Give me just a moment.
Bear with us, folks. This is live.
There we go. All right. Enjoy.
Well, welcome back to the Divorce Do's and Don'ts show. I'm so excited to have you here today. We have a special guest, a longtime colleague and friend, Mike Mastracci. And Mike has been practicing family law for over 30 years. And he got his start after several tumultuous years with the custody battle. So he understands what it's like to go through this personally. He calls that his claim to fame. He practices litigation, mediation, and collaborative law. And he is also a parent coordinator and court appointed best interest attorney. And you'll have to tell us a little bit more about that. What is the best interest attorney, Mike? And also is the author of the award-winning book, Stop Fighting Over the Kids. And I will tell you that that is a fabulous book. We're going to talk about things that are in the book today. So Mike, welcome to our show today. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with you. Thanks again. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. So why don't we start off by you giving us some information about what your experience was and how it brought you to this work and the wisdom that you learned through that.
I could put it in a nutshell is my son was about 2 years old. He's now 28 years old and practicing attorney and practiced family law of all things. So started there and went on for several years. Financial ruin, just about as ugly as it gets. On board with everything, but it was just a ton of just ugliness for a very, very long time. And so what happened is that's when I got into the family law and divorce and custody. Had it not been for my own personal experiences, I would have never in a million years gotten into divorce and child custody law and things like that. I was happy dealing with criminals and DUIs and things like that, but this is where I ended up.
From the frying pan into the fire pit, right? I mean, from one.
I tell you this too, it's a lot easier being the lawyer than it is the client, because being the client, the litigant, so to speak, in one of these really, really ugly custody battles is tough. It's really tough, as anybody's going through it, who's been through it knows.
Well, it's nice that you have the experience and the empathy because of that to be able to serve your clients, because it is a difficult time in people's lives, and that's why we're here. We want to help people understand some of the things that they can be doing, that they should be doing, to make this easier on themselves and everyone else in their family and their divorce team. And then again, those things that they should stay away from, the don'ts, the do's and don'ts here. So let's start talking about from the perspective of how you came to write this book and the lessons that you learned. And I got to tell you what I love about your book. I've referred it to so many clients over the years is the levity that you bring to a very difficult situation and the common sense approach. So many times when I would read through the book, I'd say, well, that's just such a simple thing, but it has such a great impact. So why don't you give us some insights from your book and tell us how you came to write that?
Those the things in there, if you look at the book, you say, okay, it's written by a lawyer, and the topic being, stop fighting over the kids and resolving day-to-day custody conflict and divorces, et cetera, et cetera. When we talk about those things, you may think, or a lot of people will think, it has like legal advice and legal help and all that, and the whole book is really all about practical. So I wrote it from the standpoint of going through things and living it and trying to come out on top. But when I say on top, it's not like to win a custody battle, which is one of the comments I want to make in a minute. I'll come back to that. But basically, the book was, how do you get through it without ruining your kids and ruining yourself and doing those kinds of things? And I wrote it probably, it was a number of years after the divorce custody situation. Had I written the book right after it or right during it, would have been, the courts suck, all women suck, this is terrible, this is unfair, et cetera, because so many, it could be, forget the man woman thing, but just as an example, it could be either one that has those feelings. But so many people that go through it, they feel that everything's just stacked against them, it's a terrible experience, and they have 1,000,001 complaints, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I try to write it from the perspective of, rather than focusing on those things, which would be when you first come out of it, that's where your head is, that's where your mind is, that's all you talk about. Even if you quote unquote won, it's an experience that lives with you forever, and it's all you talk about. But I tried to do it from a perspective of, okay, from within, how do you get through all those things? And it's not about all these judges, courts, what this person's done to you, and what the witnesses did, that everybody lies, depositions, lawyers, fees, et cetera. It's not about that. It's like, how do you get through this, to do what's best for your child or children and not lose your sanity? So that was the perspective where I wrote it from. And, half kiddingly, had I written it from the very beginning, it would have been a completely different book, because this was written from reflecting, okay, how the heck did I get through these things, and what helped me and what didn't help me? And it's to this day, I'll just go into one little thing. Let me maybe back up, if I may, on talking about winning, because people look at custody battles. So, okay, battle, people win battles. It's like characterized as a battle. So your first thing is define, what is winning? I mean, does winning really mean you need to go to court to smash the other person, make them look terrible, prove your points, do all these other things to get quote unquote custody and all that? Is that a win? Or is a win coming out of this with some dignity, having your child or children respect you, admire you, and to recognize that you treat their other parent with respect, and that you are concerned about their well-being, all those things that really should, that's what a win is. I mean, when we have children, the win is we've raised happy, healthy children, right? The lose is we put them through hell, through a divorce, through their whole minority and some, and they come out, paying for it. They come out paying for it far more than the parents do. So that's kind of
that's very important. I'm glad you backed up and made that point.
So the winning, so
one childhood, right?
So, but where I was going before I went back to that is talk about little things here and there. To this day, when I'm talking to other lawyers and cases and everything, and I mention this, some people like don't even get what I'm about to say, and it's so simple. It's like, okay, what they call transitions, the exchanges from when a child goes from parent to parent, pick up and drop off, if you will. All right. So if you think about it, in a not so friendly situation, the children only get to really see their parents together at pick up and drop off, sports events, school events, stuff like that. So pick up and drop off is a big thing. So if that's when your children get to see you together, don't you owe it to them to make it as pleasant for them as possible, right? And one other thing, like people talk about, well, we'll just meet at the police station. Like, no, not at the police station. What message does that send to a kid? My mother and father get along so terribly that we have to go to the police station to go from one car to the other. I mean, it's just terrible. So some of the do's and don'ts on the transitions, it's if you do shared driving, and instead of like you going to pick the child up and things like that, whoever has the child is responsible for taking him or her to the other parent. Okay. that little thing, forget the halfways and all that kind of stuff. First of all, from a fairness standpoint from the parents, it's 50-50 driving, which seems fair, but that's really not my issue, right? But it's fair. It's an easy sell because, okay, it's fair to you guys because it's 50-50 driving. You know, you're driving that way, you're driving back that way. But what it does, a couple things, subliminally, you're telling the child, hey, it's okay, let's go see mom and dad. Come on, let's go, right? You're also you're the one that's then in charge of getting them there on time. So you can say, pick up your toys, get your stuff together, finish your dinner. It's not let's do a flip side, a stereotypical male female thing, if you will. So, okay, here's the deal. Dad comes to the door to pick up the child, like the UPS man, right? He comes to pick up the child. Child's playing video games. Now, mom should have had him ready, but that's a different story. So mom says, oh, I'm sorry, you gotta put that away. Your dad's here. Oh, shucks, you know. So what does that send to the child? You know what I mean? That kind of message. So what happens is, and then you always get to, if the child is leaving the house, oh, I'm gonna miss you, I love you so much, and the other parent's just standing there. So you're jockeying for affection in front of the child. All these things people like are oblivious to sometimes. So so you can do, if you're doing the dropping off, you can do your, unless the child's real small and got to be carried or whatever, but by and large, you can do your goodbyes and your private time and all in the car. Child gets out of the car, doors shut. It's all about the other parent. There's no interaction, no chance for negativity. And also the pick up and drop off transitions, some of the little things, there you do not speak to the other parent at that transition about anything other than maybe hi or bye. It's not a time to ask about a child support check. It's not a time to say, I need you to sign this or sign that. What's this? You know, it's not, you just can't put yourself in that position unless you're the parents that get along so well that, you come on in and have a cup of coffee kind of people, but that's not, or this presentation is, that's not the audience we're generally talking to in this type of situation. So when I say to people, why don't we just have this one drop off to that one and vice versa? So, and people are like, well, no, I think meeting halfway sounds better, or no, if he wants to see the child, he can pick up, or no, she can pick up. It's like these little things, and there's a bunch more of them I could go through, but we can change topics. But the point is, these are little things that they're not in law school, they're not in judges school, but they're just common sense, and it's just basically you got to minimize your opportunity for conflict. And you got to maximize the time that your child is happy, healthy, and sees you being a quote unquote normal person. Oh, that normal person.
Yeah.
I feel, should I shut up and let you ask a question or not? I'm sorry.
I'm enjoying. No, this is all good stuff, Mike. All good stuff.
I'm going to go off this way for a second. So anyway, normal person. There's one of my sayings, and this is an original, and this got me through a lot because when I was going through everything, I always tried to say, okay, in my head, and this might sound tacky, but I should say, okay, I'm the superior parent. And I would say that because I'm like, what do I do? You know what I mean? In this situation. So ex-wife has asked me for this, this, and that, or wants to do this, this, and that. What do I do? So what I used to say is, okay, if we were two normal parents, what would I do? Right. And I don't mean normal as in abnormal necessarily, but if we were not going through this situation, then we were otherwise normal, what would I do? So if you and I were married and you said, hey, Mike, I'd like you to do this, this, and this, and it may be an inconvenience, but it's for the benefit of our child. If I was a normal parent or a normal spouse with you, what would I do? I would do this. Well, that's what I would try to do, even though every, paybacks are what do you call it? I don't want to use that nasty word, but paybacks are pleasant for some people. You know what I mean? So the temptation to say, no, I'm not going to do this for you because you did this to me, or you didn't do this for me when I asked. So you got to do just the opposite. It's like, okay, I may have not been treated the way I would like to have been treated with this parental issue, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the exact opposite. And you just got to get in the habit of kind of doing that, because so many people, it's like what I refer to as like, I gotcha game. So you mess me over, you get one over on me on a child related issue, it's coming back at you sooner or later if you're in that cycle. You know what I mean? So they just like, you got over on me this week, guess what? Next, I have somebody recently that I spoke to that is concerned because her wedding date she's planning, and it's like a year away. She went and counted the calendar, right? That's not my Sunday, right? And I'm afraid that if I plan my wedding date, in the end, even if he says he will give me my Sunday, he probably won't. And it's cost $7,000 extra if I do it on a Saturday. So I think I better do it on Saturday. I'm like, it's just like insanity if you think about it.
Mm.
Um, so
You know, interviewed Rosalind Sadaka, you know, Rosalind.
sure, yeah, great lady.
And
Wealth of
last
information.
week she was on the show and she said a quote of, love your children more than you hate your ex.
Yep, yep.
And that's essentially what you're talking about here, because, you know, really putting them first. It's always about putting them and their needs and what is in their best interest first. And if you keep doing that, your kids are going to grow up and see who behaved well and who didn't. You can't control the other spouse, but you can control yourself, and you can hold your head high and take the high road. And that's what you've done here. And you've created a great path for people to follow with the tips that you give in this book. So why don't you share? I'd love to know some stories of things that worked really well for people with the tips that you use in the book, or things that worked well for you. And like your situation here, it's brilliant. You know, you have the parent that has the child, you take them home. It alleviates so many problems. Any other vignettes or stories that you want to share with us on things like that? I know you've got tons of stories.
A ton of stories, right? But one, two things. One that comes to mind is if what was I going to say about that? One, phone contact, for example, right? That's another whole issue about people always have arguments over phone contact with the children, right? So that is, to me, so overrated. Realistically, a lot of times, especially younger children, it's the phone contact really is for the parents. I mean, the children, a lot of times, if they're with the other parent, they're not like, oh, gee, I can't wait to talk to mommy or daddy tonight. You know, it's more or less the other parent, and, you know, wanting to speak to the child, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, you know. But if it's a situation where people aren't getting along well, then it's all it is a disruption for the child, because, okay, child knows one parent is going to call, child's with the other parent. Child knows that the other parent is not warm and fuzzy about that phone call coming into the house, you know, and usually the parent's there. So child cannot be overly friendly or talkative to the calling parent, and cannot be him or herself in front of the other parent. It's just a terrible situation a lot of times, where some people say, you know, I need to call every day and this and that. And I went through early on in the beginning, I started doing that. And then I made the decision, you know what, when he's not with me, he's not with me. And that's just that, you know. And then, you know, that my son was young enough where that became the norm early on, you know, and it was just easier, not necessarily easier for me, easier for him. I don't want to put him in that situation. It's just turmoil, you know what I mean? It's like, and do I really, and the reality is, in a perfect world, if you and I are husband and wife and one's away for a seminar or whatever, and you call to talk to a 4 or 5-year-old, how much conversation are you really going to have with that child? You know what I mean? So it's like, you know, again, it goes back to my point, who is the phone call really for? It's more for the parent than for the child. And so I really think that, and then when you say the phone call still shall take place, oh, here's a story. Somebody had a phone call and a provision to take place between 6 and 7 p.m. on, say, Wednesday night, right? So, and long story, there was a period of estrangement and all that. So what happens is the little girl did not want to speak to the father at all, right? So it was a real battle to get her to even talk. Well, they both parties read the court order as the phone call had to happen for an hour. So it was to happen between 6 and 7, not from 6 to 7. And so they would have this girl agonize for an hour of talking, hanging up, not talking, because the mother didn't want to be in violation of the court order. And the father would be saying, I didn't get my hour phone call. You owe me 30 minutes, you know, and that's so owe you. That comes back to another one of my biggest pet peeves. When people say, I should get makeup time, right? Makeup time. It's supposed to be my Friday, but you took them to the such and such because I let you do that. So therefore I want makeup time, right? And the reality, and we all know this, is in life doesn't give you makeup time. When it's over, it's over. You know what I mean? So the reality is, you can I don't like to call it makeup time. I like to say, I can give you time. If you want time with your child that where he or she would otherwise be with me, great, go have a good time, right? That's again, if we were two normal parents, what would I do? That's what I would do, right? So go have a good time. And then in return, hopefully you'll do the same for me. And if you don't, you don't. I'm not going to demand makeup time. I mean, the time's gone. That Friday night that I was supposed to have, that Friday night's come and gone. So it's not being made up, because you would not believe, like even like in a contempt proceeding, when somebody files for contempt because I didn't allow you to see the child this time or that time, and they want makeup time. They'll spend thousands of dollars fighting over a couple days of quote unquote makeup time. It's crazy. So makeup time, I think. And again, these are things. And I mean, I don't know all, and I'm not trying to like talk down to anybody, because some of these things may not be for everybody. You know what I mean? So it's if you're like really makeup times, something that's totally important for you, and you're both on the same page, have at it. But I think you end up being miserable, keeping track of makeup time all the time. But
I think if you get to the point where you're each able to give each other some grace, life happens, and you may have had a plan to do something this weekend, and now you've got to go on a business trip that was unanticipated. So your ex-spouse comes in and says, hey, I'll take them this weekend, don't worry about it. And then maybe when they have a situation, they're gonna, look for the same reciprocity. And that's a give and take. And that's better for your child and for each other all the way around. And even if it's not happening now, folks who are watching this live or during the replay, this is possible down the road. I've talked to so many people and so many experts who say, maybe this isn't happening fresh out of the divorce, but over time, if you start giving each other some grace, if you start maturing after the process, some of the pain is not as fresh, the sting isn't there, you've learned and you've changed your own tactics, your own way of being, it can change, it can shift the energy among all. And if it doesn't, there's nothing you can do about the other person. You can only change within you. And Mike, you were telling us a prime example in these cases of how you changed yourself a few years out, right? It didn't happen right away. But there is hope. So if this is fresh to you and you're watching, you understand that there is hope down the line, that things may change. And if they don't, that you change and you hold your head high and you take the high road, and your children are watching. They will grow up. They will remember how each parent acted and behaved and reacted, and they will thank you for this down the road. I also want to quote a judge, and I'm so sorry, folks, I cannot remember his name, but he had a great quote, and he said, would you rather spend more on your children's education or your attorney's children's education, right? Because every time you take your ex back to court for contempt of something, it's costing your children, because that's money that you don't have to spend on them. And so I just, we're about out of time here. And I got to tell you this, Mike and I could talk for hours. Get his book. Mike, do you have a copy of it there? We're going to be showing folks, but
I just happen to have one, right? Can you see
okay.
it?
Well, it's kind of showing up there. There we go.
Where is it? I don't know where it is.
Yeah,
I will say, it's okay. You can go on my website, MikeTheLawyer.com. You can download a free PDF version, and if you don't want to download 300 pages, it's on Amazon and Kindle. But again, you can have it for free.
And then what's the name of it again, Mike?
The book, it's called Stop Fighting Over the Kids, Resolving Day-to-Day Custody Conflict in Divorce Situations.
Great. Well, thank you so much again, Mike.
I really appreciate it.
Great having you here. And anybody that needs you to reach you again, your website is
MikeTheLawyer.com. Email is Mike@MikeTheLawyer.com. Phone number 410-869-3400. And as I told you before, since this wasn't live, if any of your people want to contact me, we can do a Q&A privately or a group. So if that works.
There you go, folks. And Mike's going to leave that offer open for a bit of time. So take advantage of that. And reach out and ask him whatever questions that he can help you with. And what state are you based in again?
I'm in Maryland.
You serve Maryland and
Yes.
Delaware and others?
Yeah, I've just practiced in Maryland, but the
Yeah.
beauty of a lot of these things is they're like not law specific, they're practical specific, so
Okay.
a lot
Yeah.
of it will apply to anybody's situation.
Great. Well, thank you again. It's been a great show. We
It's good to
appreciate
see
you, Mike.
again. Take care.
Take
Have a
care.
good, take
Bye-bye.
care, everybody. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure everybody appreciated that excellent interview with Mike Mastracci. And as he mentioned, he will make himself available for anyone who would like to reach out with some questions after the show. So that actually wraps up our show for today. We do want to make you aware of a couple of things that you have available to you through Divorcetown. These are resources and different things that you can avail yourself of. And we're also going to show you how you can get Mike's book. So give me just a second here and let me share the screen again. And let's go ahead and go forward. We want to show everybody the roadmap. If you've been with us before on a show, you know that you can get this right from the homepage of divorcetownusa.com. We also want to show you the free divorce financial fitness kit. This is also something that you can get as a download. It includes an ebook. It also includes questions that you would want to ask an attorney if and when you do meet with one. And this is available at divorcemoneymatters.com. Also, there is a support group available. I will tell you folks, last Friday night, we had a meeting and it was incredible how much everybody participated, not just during the meeting, but afterwards. A lot of them kept the conversation going with each other as they were kind of helping each other through different stages, people who had already been through where someone else was. What a neat thing to see, peers helping peers. With the help of some professional moderators as part of that group. So you can go to meetup.com, look for the Divorce Help and Hope group, and you should be able to find that there. Lastly, we do want to let you know that you can get Mike's book also at divorcetownusa.com. It is available on the marketplace, and it is an affiliate link, and we will explain to you on the website how that works. But it is available for you there, or as he mentioned, you can download a copy for free if you would prefer to do that. Mike's book is also available through the resources from last week's show for International Child-Centered Divorce Month. It is available also on that website for free. That's one of the gifts that he has made available for Child-Centered Divorce Month.
Now, just add to that it's 300 pages, as he mentioned to us on the show. So it's a big download. Make sure you've got space. And if you'd like a hard copy, I still like to have a book in my hand. You can find it at the marketplace. And also with those free gifts that Marcella mentioned, there are ebooks, there are with the Divorce Financial Fitness Kit, there is a working spreadsheet of all the financial documents you need to gather. So take a look at those and avail yourself to all these complimentary gifts that we have for you to help you get through this in the best light possible.
Thank you, Lisa. So we just want to let you know what's coming up next week. We are going to sit down with Kathleen Schack. Some of you may remember her from a show we did together in December. Kathleen is a licensed marriage and family therapist, a certified discernment counselor, and also a registered divorce mediator. So she knows what she's talking about.
Yes, she does.
So she is going to be talking to us about whether or not you can be friendly with ex-in-laws. Sometimes we do build relationships with our in-laws, with their family. And so the question is that still possible, or is it even a good idea? So Kathleen's going to sit down with us next week and talk to us a little bit about that. So we hope that you found this episode of the Divorce Do's and Don'ts Show helpful. We look forward to seeing you all next week, same place, same time as always. And like we tell you every week, we are truly committed to helping America and indeed the world divorce better, one family at a time. Thank you for joining us today.
See you next week. Thanks for coming.